Welcome. In this video we're going to do a solo playthrough of the updated Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. So down at the table, before we get to the game and just get to some upgrades, what I'm using to hold my cards are called Uber Stacks. Put a link to getting these in the description below. The game comes with these 5 dice, but in the game we will need additional dice, so I am adding in a larger collection. The game also comes with these tokens, but I've been playing miniature games for a while and I have their equivalent miniatures. And also, just to give a shout out to the rulebook here. It does a great job of explaining things. Got some items that I do like. Things to keep in mind. Cards do what they say. Cards don't do what they don't say. So they just try to tell you to read the card and do what it says. Try to make the game as easy as possible and not get bogged down by some minute details. It does come with a table of contents so you can find some things easily. And near the back of the book, there's also a glossary for all the terms. And one neat thing they do for each item, they tell you where to find it in the rulebook. So if you're trying to figure out something or know what loot is, it tells you to go to page 17. And something else I like done on games is on the back of the rulebook, they have a reference sheet going over turn overview, main processes of encountering a card, attempting a check, playing a card, and the different ways to play it and what it does, and easily forgotten rules. Another thing they've done is made player reference cards going over the turn overview and once again all the different options for playing cards. So this is a great addition for most games. I'm glad they put it into this one. So as far as setup, we are doing the first introductory scenario for the Dragon's Demand. To start off, they go through the different scenarios for this, and like I said, this is an optional one, so there's some minor changes. In the scenario, they give you plenty of flavor text to explain what you're doing. For the setup, we are not doing the full setup for this. We're just going to use 3 small locations and 12 blessings. We'll explain what that means later. The locations we'll be using and the banes. So the danger is going to be rescue. The villain we're going after is bandits. And the henchmen are going to be dire wolves using cards proxies. So setting up the adventure, we've found the locations. Each location is going to tell you how to construct their deck. So depending on whether you're playing a short game, medium, or long, it tells you the type of cards and the number of those cards to put in. And we're playing the short game. So at the campsite, there will be 3 monster cards, 1 weapon, an item, and an ally. And also each location gives you any special rules, how to close or guard the location, and what to do when the location is closed. So the same thing for the caravan. Tells you how to construct the deck, what happens at this location, closing, guarding, and when it's closed. And the third location is the trail. Now, in addition to those 6 cards in each of these decks, we have taken 2 proxies for our dire wolves and the actual bandit, taking those 3 cards and randomly put them in these decks and shuffled them through. So we have 3 locations with 7 cards each, and then our hourglass, which is 12 blessings put in, that gets shuffled up. This is the game timer. This means we will have 12 turns to do what we need to do in this game. As for the characters, I am using Amiri. She is our barbarian. Gives you a little flavor text, how to construct the deck. So inside her deck, there will be 4 weapon cards, 2 armors, 3 items, 2 allies, and 4 blessings. And I've just used the standard setup for both the characters. So we've constructed her deck and shuffled that up. And Sione, flavor text, how to construct the deck, and then on the back side, skills, dice we use, and the powers, hand size, and proficiencies. Taking a look at some of the cards we see that we might find in our locations. Basically, we've got the name, how to acquire it. So this only matters when we pull it out of the location decks. And then we play it out of our hand. It's going to tell us the powers we have. So to say we found this in the location, we would have to do either a wisdom or survival check and we would need to get at least 4 to get this in our deck. And the way that works is looking at our card. So you go through and see, well, we've got survival with a +2 using a wisdom, which gives us a d6. So we'd roll a d6, add 2 to it, and if we meet or beat what it takes to make the acquire check, we would add this to the hand. And the same thing will kind of work out for monsters as they show up. So the whole point of this scenario is to find our bandit in here and get rid of him within the 12 rounds that we have. So just doing the math, 21 cards, 12 turns. We need to be a little bit lucky and risky. The scenario said we both characters start at the campsite. And for starting hand sizes, Amiri starts with a hand of 4 cards. So here we've got a leathered armor, benefaction, a risen, and a blast stone. But she also has a favored card, which is a melee weapon. So if we do not get a melee weapon in our starting hand, we will set those cards to the side and draw another 4 cards until we get a melee weapon, which we now have. So we have a battle axe for a combat check. We can reveal this card to use our strength or melee plus a d8. And also proficient, you may additionally discard to add another d8. We have blessing cards, so we'll show you how each of these cards will interact throughout the game as they come into effect. And since our first hand did not show us a melee weapon, we'll put that back into our deck and shuffle it up. The other thing about each person's deck is this is also our life. So whenever we go to draw cards, if there's no cards left in our deck, we are dead. So when we take wounds or exert ourselves, we are losing cards from our health. And Sione starts with a hand size of 6. And she needs to find a spell, so we have a spell in her hand. So that's the main way she attacks. So taking a quick look at our special powers. You can see on your strength check or your check against a monster, you may bury a card, we'll explain that later, from your hand to add your fortitude skill, which will be another d8. If we get this box checked, it will make it a little bit better for us. So this is campaign driven, so as we get experience points, we'll be able to check additional boxes, skill upgrades to become a better character. And for closing your location, does not prevent you from exploring. And at the end of your turn, you may move. Any local characters may move with you, so any other characters at the same spot as us can move with us. And for our sorcerer, for your combat check, you may discard a card to use Arcane plus 2d4 plus the card's level and add the attack, force, and magic traits. This counts as playing an arcane spell, so that's pretty much how she attacks. And on your check to recharge an arcane spell, you automatically succeed. So that's one way. Typically, these just go to your discard pile, so you're losing health, but with recharging, it lets you put it on the bottom of your deck to not hurt yourself as you use spells. So let's go over the turn overview. First, we will advance the hour Then you may give a card to another local character. You may move to a distant location. You may explore the top card of your location. You may try to close your location if it doesn't have any cards, and then end your turn applying end of turn effects, do recovery, and then reset. So advancing the hour is just taking the top card of our hourglass and turning that over. When this card is the hour, this one has no effect. So we'll just put that down here. May give a card to another local character. We are not going to do that. You may move to a distant location. I think we will just stay at the campsite location where we are at. You may explore the top card of your location. So we will take the top card here. We have found a glorious warhammer. So this is something we definitely want. It's a melee strength item. To check, we're doing a strength melee check. And if we get this, we will put this in our hand. Powers that it do for us for your combat check, reveal to use strength or melee, plus a d8, plus 1. If proficient against a monster, you may additionally reload to ignore its after-acting powers. Recharge to examine the top card of your deck. So we'll go over all those card effects here real quick. So if you draw a card, you add it to your hand. If you reveal it, you just show it to play it. Display, place it face up next to your deck, so that'll give you an ongoing ability. Reload, put it on top of your deck. Recharge, put it on the bottom of your deck. Discard, put it into your discards pile. Bury, put it under your character, so that'll remove it for the rest of the adventure. And banish, put it in the recovery pile or vault. So we want to do a check, getting at least a 10 to succeed using strength and melee. Our strength and melee is a d12 plus 2. Taking a look at our cards, see if something will help. We are also going to play the prayer on any check, discard to bless. And basically what a bless does is it lets you add another duplicate die to your main skill. So we would be able to roll 2 d12s for this test. So we will discard this card so that we can roll 2 d12s, adding a plus 2. And we are hoping to get a 10 or higher with this roll. And what we have here is we have 16 showing plus the plus 2, so we have an 18, so we can acquire this card. This will go to our hand. So now we have these cards. Since we've got a lot to do on our turn, we are going to use our horse ability to discard to explore. In this exploration on our first check, we will add a d4 to that. So we'll discard that and explore a second time. And we found a porcupine. So to check to acquire, we're using wisdom, fortitude, or survival, and we need a 5 or higher to succeed. So our wisdom is a d6, and we have a plus 2 for the survival. So we are adding 2 to this die roll. That will get us a 6. So we have acquired a porcupine. And once again, we'll just go ahead and use it. Discard to explore. Also forgot on the previous roll we could have added a d4, but that wasn't needed. So back to this, discard to explore. If the first card you encounter is a monster, you may recharge this card instead. So if this is a monster, this gets recharged. Not a monster, so it gets discarded. And we found some boots of friendly terrain. So a dexterity stealth check of 8 is needed. And there is no way we can pass this with a d6 for our skill. So we will just not even attempt to roll and just fail this check. And this card will go back to the game box or be banished. We actually did a lot on that turn, but that's all we can do. So we are not ready to close the location. We have no end of turn effects. There's no cards for us to recover. Most of our spells will do that, so we'll see that with our other character. So then we will reset, which is basically drawing cards back up to our hand size of 4, so we will draw one more card. So then we will move to Sione's turn, starting with flipping a blessing. When this is the hour, on your check against an undead card, add a d6. And she will stay there, and we'll go ahead and flip this card. We found a henchman proxy. And that is a proxy for a direwolf. So for a check here, we either need to do a combat of 12 or a survival of 6. Sione does not know what survival is, so we are forced to do a combat check. So we are going to use Force Missile, which will allow us to use our arcane skill, plus 2d4. And it says to banish the card, but it also has a recovery. So after we use this, if proficient, which we are proficient in arcane, discard this card. You may succeed at an arcane 6 check to recharge instead. And because of her ability, on your check to recharge an arcane spell, you automatically succeed. So this is not going to hurt us. Recharge, it's just going to go to the bottom of our deck after we use it. So for her arcane, we get a d12 and then 2d4, and we are looking for a total of 12. So let's see if the dice are with us. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just what we needed. So at the bottom, damage is increased by d4, but we were able to defeat it. So during the game, we have 2 opportunities to close a location. One would be if there is no cards in the deck, and the second would be if you defeat a henchman. We can attempt for a close. If we beat the villain, of course, and he cannot escape, we automatically close the location. So for the campsite, in order to close this, we need to choose 3 different types of boons, then recharge a boon of each type. Boons are basically good cards in your hand. So we have a spell, an ally, and a blessing. And I think we will choose these 3 different boons and then recharge them by putting them on the bottom of our deck. So that will close this location. All these cards will get banished. Our characters get to move. We will go ahead and move them both over to the trail location. And then we will resolve the end effect of this card. Since we automatically succeed at recharging, we will put this card on the bottom of our deck also. So far that went pretty well for us. Not going to complain with that. So we did the end of turn effects. We did the recovery, which allowed us to put that spell on the bottom of our card. Now we're going to reset by drawing back up to 6 cards. So we've got 2 spells that aren't really made for attacking. Some allies that will help us with some checks. Recharging to draw a card or recharge a card. Another blessing spell. And a hand weapon in case we do have to fight later. So back to our barbarian's turn. I'll take a blessing. When this is the hour card, there is no effect. And we will have her go ahead and explore in the trail, finding a sacred candle. With the wisdom divine check of 10, we will be able to obtain this. And if we get it, bury to draw the hour. You may not play this during an encounter. So let's see. Our wisdom is a D6, so we are going to fail this no matter what. Unless we can get enough blessings to do it, but I'm not going to waste cards on that. So this will be banished for us. And with no other cards in our hand to help us explore some more, that will be it for our turn. So going back over to our sorcerer. On this, the blessing, on your blessed check, you may re-roll any dice showing a 1. So if we have a skill check next that we bless, that die we can re-roll it again if it rolls a 1 for us. So we will have our sorcerer explore. We found our first monster. So we have a goblin troublemaker. Looks like a troublemaker. To defeat, we're doing a combat check of 9. Powers, before acting, succeed at a dexterity, constitution, acrobatics, or fortitude 4 check, or roll a d4. So maybe suffering some damage, whether it be range combat, fire, scourge poisoned, or recharge a card. We will look at our options here. So dexterity gets us a d6. Constitution, a d6. Acrobatics. Sione is not acrobatic. And fortitude. She does not have that. So we're just going to roll a d6 and hope we do well on this, or else some bad things will happen. A 1, so bad things are going to happen. Since we did not make the check, we will roll a d4 to see what the consequences are. Nope, that's a leaner. We will try again. So a 2. So we will suffer 1 fire damage. So when you suffer damage, you just take a card from your hand and put it in your discard pile. And I think we are going to have our troubadour be the damage and discard that card. And now for our actual attack for combat of 9. The only thing we have to attack with is either using this or our special ability to discard a card to use Arcane D4, which I think we will go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and discard our Teamster so that we can use a D12 plus 2D4. Since my rolls have not been looking the best, I will go ahead and bless this check to throw in another D12. And we have 14, 16, 18 plus 2, so we did a total of 20. So that's a bit overkill. So the goblin is defeated and removed from play. So it's a little overkill, but I wasn't feeling lucky on that. So then we have no cards to recover, so we reset, drawing 3 cards. And move back to Amiri's turn. So this card has no effect. Amiri will kick down the door in the trail location and find a swamp ooze needing a combat 9 effect. It is immune to cold, fire, mental, and poison. And after acting, each local character either recharges an armor or suffers an acid damage. So we will use our Glorious Warhammer. For your combat check, reveal to use strength or melee, plus a d8 plus 1. If proficient, which we are with weapons, against a monster, you may additionally reload to ignore its after acting. So reloading will be putting this back on top of our deck. So we will get a D12 plus a D8, and we will be adding a total of 1 from this and 2 from Amari's skill. Looking for a 9. 6, 7, and we get to add 3 to that, so we get a 10. And since we reloaded this by putting it on top of our deck, we get to ignore the after acting of powers and discard this from the game. And that will end Amiri's turn. So going over to Sione. When you would discard a boon to bless a dexterity or charisma check, you may recharge it instead. We will explore here on the trail, finding a blessing, needing a strength or divine check. And what this is, it's 4 plus the scenario number we're on. And this is a level 1 scenario, so we will need a score of 5 or better to obtain this. And our strength is a D4, and we don't know what divine is, so we would just go ahead and fail at this and remove that from the pile. Alright, so we will use our energy resistance to display it next to our character. So if we were to suffer acid, cold, electricity, or fire, reduce it by 1. Or when we suffer acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage, banish to reduce to 0. So we'll just go ahead and put that next to our character. Then we will use our Sage card to discard to examine the top card of your location, which will let us look at the first card and put it back there. Then shuffle the location, then we get to explore. So examining the deck, we can see there's a snare coming up, which is something she wouldn't have been too well at. Then we will shuffle that in with the remaining cards. Alright, so we have shuffled the deck, and we will search, finding a rat swarm, which has a combat check of 9 to defeat. Powers is it's vulnerable to attack, so if we were to attack this with a card with that keyword, we will get to add 4 to our dice roll. And if defeated by less than 4, shuffle this monster into its location. So we need to hit this thing hard or it's going to come back. So we are going to use Sione's power to just discard a card to allow us to make an attack using Arcane, which is a D12 for us, and 2 D4s. That also makes the card have the attack, force, and magic traits, so we will get the +4 to the die roll. And we're looking for hopefully a 13. So 1, 2, 4, plus another 4 for the attack. Gets us to 10. And since it's an arcane, we are at +2. So that is 12. So unfortunately, that was not enough to get rid of this card. So it will be shuffled back into the deck. Sione doesn't have any more cards to really help her search, so she will draw 3 more. And her life is getting low. So back to Amiri. Start with the blessing. When you heal, you may heal an additional card. Forgot to draw up, so we knew that was our hammer coming back, so we will go ahead and explore, and we found the other proxy, so we know where the big bandit is. So once again, we're looking for a combat of 12, and a survival of 6 to defeat this card. And then for this location, we need to discard either a random card or a card matching your favored card to close it. We are going to use our hammer to give us our strength, which is a D12, and a D8, plus 1. Something else that can happen is other players can contribute to the fight. So we have Sione discard this blessing, so we can add another D12 to that attack. So we've got 2 D12s plus a D8, and we'll be adding 3 to this. So we've got a total of 19, so we did 22. Overkill is never a bad thing, so we can remove those cards. And then we can either discard a random card or a card matching your favorite card, which is a melee, which we will do because we do not want to lose our glorious Warhammer. So we'll discard this to close this location. So these 2 cards will go away. And since that is closed, both people will move over to the caravan location where we know our bandit is hiding out. So end of the turn, no cards to recharge. We'll reset, drawing another card. So we have a Warhammer and a glorious Warhammer. And Sione will take her turn. So what we're going to do is use Soothing Word on herself. On your turn, banish to heal a local character a card and or remove a scourge from them. So we're going to heal one of our own cards. And of course, we won't banish. It will go to recovery since it's arcane, and we will automatically recharge this at the end of our turn. So healing, you look at your discard pile, shuffle it up. You randomly take 1 card. We'll take this one and shuffle that into your deck. So hopefully she will last another turn. She'll have her explore. Finding a fox. He's needing wisdom and survival of 5 or higher. So there's a chance. We rolling a D6 on this check. Needing a 5 or higher. So close. So we saw the fox, and the fox ran away. Now we do have the option to discard and explore, but her health is getting risky. So we'll apply end of turn effects. There's none for recovery. We automatically succeed at this, so we can recharge this card. Then we will draw 2 more cards to be up to 6 cards. Just trying to keep her alive. And also at the beginning of her turn, I forgot her blessing card. So on her check against a spell, she would have had a D4, but that didn't matter. So we caught up on that. So now for Miri's turn, we have not very much time left, so we're running out of time. On your check against an outsider card, add a D4. And we will explore, finding a spell, needing intelligence arcane or wisdom divine to get. No chance of getting this without assistance, and we are not going to spend any cards to try to get that, as things are looking bleak for us. And another thing we can do at the end of our turn is we can discard any amount of cards. Basically, we want to find some blessings in case we need to do some more searching. So we're going to discard 2 cards and then draw back up to 4. Found a soldier with a long spear. Soldier will let us discard to explore on the next turn, so hopefully that will help if things don't go well here. So on Sione's turn, flipping a blessing, no effect. She will explore, and we have found the bandit we need to get rid of. So check to defeat. We can either do combat, needing a 9 plus the number of our adventure. So 1 plus 1, so we will need an 11 to beat this. Or banish a random boon, which honestly isn't bad because they're all starter cards. But before acting, we will need to recharge a card, and if undefeated or evaded, bury the bottom card of your deck. So we are going to recharge the quarterstaff. And well, the easy thing would be to banish a random boon. That's no fun. We want to go ahead and attempt to defeat this bandit in combat. We're going to use a force missile, using our arcane, which will be a D8 plus 2D4. And then we will go ahead and spend this blessing on a local check, discarding it to bless. So we'll have another D12 in this. So we need an 11 or more to win this scenario. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Plus we would have had another 2 for our arcane. So we have defeated the bandit and won this scenario. So our reward for winning is each character gets a new level 1 boon of any type. So for Mary, she's going to choose the weapon types. So we'll go through the cards available, look for all the level 1 cards, give them a nice shuffle. Select one. So she's found an aligning dart. For your combat check, reveal to use dexterity or ranged. You may additionally discard to re-roll. On another local character's combat check, freely reload to add a d4 plus 1. So this isn't something I'd probably use for her on her turn, but it is something we could help assist someone else at our location. And for Sione, she is going to choose spells. So same thing, we've looked at all the level 1 spells, give them a shuffle. Picking one, we can locate an object. Banish to examine your location until you find a boon, encounter it, then shuffle your location. Oh, I was hoping for some good attack cards, but that's what the cards have dealt us. So that's the basics of playing the game. Now that we've got some additional cards, when we go to reconstruct our deck, we're still limited to the card list available to us, but we can take out some of the lower powered cards and add the new ones we've obtained in. Hope you enjoyed this playthrough. If so, please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.